abuse of medications, the using of them to self-medicate through those mental health challenges they may have. Or otherwise, the other side of this is that some young people just think they know you can get high from some of these medications, the ones we talk about, and it's just an experimental thing for them. They want to try it to see how it makes them feel. So it's not necessarily because of the mental health challenges, but they're thrill seekers, let's just say, right? And then that becomes more and more pronounced as you move through. So you've got high school, then on to college. When you get to college, then you've got young people, generally 18 and over, young adults who, for the first time in their lives, have all this freedom. They're off at college, they're living on their own in whatever way, and they can go to the doctors and get medications that their parents don't even have to know about. So when it comes to Adderall abuse, specifically, Adderall or Ritalin, some of these stimulants, it's not uncommon for young people, high school and especially college, to look on the internet to see what the symptoms of having ADHD are, because ADHD is a legitimate reason for prescribing stimulants. So they'll fake their symptoms and go to a doctor, and they'll get prescribed medications that have the opposite effect. It doesn't calm them down, but it helps them study all night if they need to get through exams. Or sometimes, the misconception is that, stimulants can make you focus more, so you can maybe do better on the tests that you have. Or, if you're playing sports, you may take a stimulant to help give you an edge on the field, to give you that extra pep and energy. We hear about that even with our sports figures, our pro sports figures. So it runs the gamut. And then we've got people that start to get into their 30s and their 40s and their 50s. And guess what? Things are breaking down. Their bodies are getting older, and, naturally things start to happen. They twist their ankle more easily or whatever. They have a car accident. So then you've got a range of people who, they're not abusing these medications to get high. They get prescribed them, but they get hooked on them. Not everybody, but a percentage of them will get, addicted and develop a substance use disorder. And then you've got the older people who have even more illnesses, and they have multiple doctors, and they have multiple doctors prescribing for different things. And some of the drugs may not combine well, and nobody's really watching over that. And, as you get older, you sometimes forget that you took your medication. You may double up. People can overdose. They don't necessarily nobody really understands, like we have come to understand, how dangerous it can be to combine alcohol with prescription drugs. And so there can be overdoses that people didn't intend. They just happened because they weren't educated and they didn't know, how dangerous that can be. So, it can affect anybody. It doesn't matter how old you are, maybe for a little bit different reasons, but it's all out there. Anybody can be affected by this.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It was kind of eye-opening how each different group of people had a different reason.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And what we know, and I really want to stress, is that the younger people, teens, preteens, begin using any substance, it is more predictive of a substance use disorder downstream because of that developing. You probably have all by now heard about the human brain and how long it takes to fully develop. We don't have a fully developed brain until we're 25. So any chemical that we're introducing into our system is potentially going to change your brain chemistry, and potentially, if you've got risk factors like a family history of addiction in particular, and some other risk factors that may drive you that direction more. So I really want to make sure young people know that the longer you can wait to try any substance at all, the better off you will be. You'll have a better chance of getting past that brain development issue, and it won't be as impacting to you.
mm-hmm. And kind of building off of that, I know you just mentioned this. What are any common risk factors that you see in specifically adolescent behaviors and their environment that make them more likely to turning to substance abuse?
Yeah, great question too. So as I just mentioned, family history of addiction is probably the biggest predictor, along with another one. So if you guys think about how you've grown up, and anytime you've been maybe traumatized because of whatever happens in your life, you have a fight for the guy, or who knows? It can be anything. If you have you know uh, any kind of a trauma, a youth oriented trauma, that is a huge risk factor. The trauma stays embedded in your brain unless you work it out. And so often when we're traumatized, especially as young people, we don't know who to talk to. We don't necessarily feel comfortable talking to our parents, or any other young person. You kind of just try to keep it, to yourself, but it stays there, and then it can come out, again, in kind of a self-medicating fashion later down path, where you want to try to erase those feelings around that trauma, and you will self-medicate to try to get through that. Otherwise, mental health issues, absolutely. If you have an underlying mental health issue that hasn't been diagnosed, it isn't being managed. Again, it's a self-medication, trying to find a way to not feel the way you're feeling. So that is a risk factor. Um, Another one would be, like a learning disability. If you have dyslexia or you have ADHD, different learning, disadvantages that would be categorized in a whole lot of different ways, can also lead to self-medication, again, because of those feelings of inadequacy or not being competent, or people making fun of you for some reason, so it would be potentially learning disabilities too. Those would be the most common ones.
Yeah, so like in terms of risk factors, if you have like identified one of those in your friends or something like that, what would you say is like the best method to approach it, like to help them fight the substance abuse?
Well, as a young person, if you're talking teen to teen, is that what we're talking about? Yeah, so if you have a friend that you really have concerns about, um, I think your best bet is first to have a conversation with them, to let them know that you see that there may be a problem, that you're there for them, but you need them to consider getting some help for it. You may or may not be successful at that. So the next step, if you can't get their attention, and have them, be willing to talk to their parents, or to go see a counselor, maybe at school, some trusted adult that they feel comfortable sharing their issues with. You can do the same thing. Um, the counselors at our schools are really good. They're caring. They want to help. What you share with them, is not gonna. I don't think it's gonna come back on you. Basically, by sharing with them, you can get an adult consultation. You can get support and help, because you yourself can't fix it. It's way bigger than you. What you can do, though, is call it out, and be there for your friend, to the best degree you can. If you see that they're going down the road of substance use, I mean, the earlier the intervention, the more likely they're going to be able to escape, um, the potential of developing a really deep-rooted substance use disorder that's going to be really hard for them. It could be life-threatening. So you're doing, even though your friend may not like you, you need to call it out. And I know that's really hard, because nobody wants to squeal on anybody, and rat people out. That the way I look at it is, you're not doing that. You're really potentially saving their life. If it's a mental health issue, what if they take their life? That's a possibility. We know it happens. What if they start using drugs or alcohol, and the awful thing happens where they overdose? You'll feel terrible the rest of your life that you didn't say something. So if you see something, we keep hearing that in all kinds of ways. If you see something, say something. So hopefully that'll help. I know it's not an easy thing to do, but just know that if you really, really have good reason for, your observations, and feeling there's a mental health issue or substance use issue, call it out, and see what you can do to get them into help.
I agree. I think conversation is like the first step in anything. I know it can be difficult, but
Yeah.
that's the most important thing to do. So that was pretty much our last question, but if you have any advice or anything for somebody that's struggling and might not be comfortable speaking up, or that's watching this, like, is there anything you would say?
What I would want to point out is, if somebody feels that And this could be a friend. This would be another avenue to get support for you to help somebody or that person and to help. If you call 911, I'm sorry, 211 in our county, that will take you directly into an emergency hotline.
Okay.
It's a helpline. And so super easy to remember. It's not 911, it's 211. And you can get some counsel and support. And it's for mental health issues, it's for substance use disorder problems, whatever the problem is, they have experts that you'll be directed to. And, you know, maybe you can ask your friend to call 211 with you also, or whatever you can do. That is a really good resource for anybody looking for help, whether they're young people or adults.
That's incredible. I actually did not know that.
Yeah, that's our Contra Costa County hotline. And I think that you can, I'm not positive, but I think you can call that in other places. Otherwise, you can call SAMHSA's hotline. Just look up S as in Sam, SAMHSA, and it really is the same thing. You know, they direct people directly to the county that that call is coming in from. So that is the other one if 211 doesn't work for whoever might, you know, listen to this that may be out of state and out of county. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I think that's it.
Okay.
Questions? Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me to speak with you, and I hope this isn't the last time I see all of you.